everyone, welcome to my channel. Welcome to today's video. Happy Valentine's Day. Today's video, I am going to be going over two of the Pat McGrath palettes here from the Love collection. I figured Valentine's Day was a great day for this video to go up. So I have two of the three, and that was the only thing I picked up from the collection. None of the liquid eyeshadows, anything like that. But I have Iconic Infatuation and Velvet Liaison, so the more cool tone as well as the all matte palette. So in today's video, I'll be going over details of these palettes, inserting in some swatches, doing a just kind of try on test on my eyes here, and then going over my final thoughts. So if that sounds good to you, make sure you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't yet. And with that, let's just get started talking about the details of these palettes. So going over these two palettes here, Pat McGrath did launch a pretty extensive Valentine's collection in my opinion, but I was really only interested in these two palettes here. So they do retail for $65 a piece, and I like that the box matches the component. That is nice because sometimes you want to keep the box because it looks so much more special than the actual component, but they do match. So now I feel good throwing this away and just having less trash. But, you know, $65 is pretty expensive. If I didn't have my YouTube channel, to be quite honest, I don't think I would have picked these up right away. I would have waited for the Black Friday sale. Pat McGrath does 40% off sales all the time. So, you know, I really internally struggled with this purchase. I'll just be upfront here before even going over my final thoughts. I'm heading into this review. I was already skeptical, like, is it worth the money? Because these are very neutral palettes. So here is the all matte palette. This is the Velvet Liaison. Then I also picked up the more cool tone color story. I didn't pick up that third one because I'm not really into warm tones, but this is Iconic Infatuation right here. So both very simple, basic palettes. If you're a neutral lover like myself, you're gonna love these. If you're not, you're probably gonna think that they're quite boring. Either way, I still recommend waiting for the sale just off the bat before even trying the formula here. But I was really interested in these, I can't lie. I love Pat McGrath, so I still ended up purchasing them. Now, it does say here that it's supposed to have a seamless blendability, use wet or dry, smooth gliding application, structure shaping essentials. So it really does seem, while Pat McGrath, I will say, it just kind of comes out with the same things over and over. These are meant to kind of be like core palettes, and I like that there's 6 pans, especially this matte one here. A lot of the times in her mothership palettes, I have a hard time with the mattes in there. If you saw my ranking all of my Pat McGrath palettes, I'll link that video above. I talked about a lot when ranking my motherships that the mattes were the issues that I had, that maybe I didn't really like the mattes in that palette, or I wish they were a little bit lighter. So I feel like now I kind of have a companion palette. As much as I don't really love that, I do have a companion palette from Pat McGrath to kind of pair with those mothership palettes. So I do think it was a smart move on her part. Going over swatches here, so I'm first going to pop up a photo of the Velvet Liaison palette, going top to bottom, left to right here. So the shades we have are Beige Bliss, Enamored, Plum Provocateur, Midnight Mink, Barely Veiled, and Voluptuous Rose. So those are the shades for the all matte palette. I do like that a lot of these shades are very neutral leaning. They're not too cool, not too warm. You do have that Enamored shade. It's a little bit more on that red brown, but for the most part, I would say that this is primarily a very neutral palette. And then for the Iconic Infatuation swatches, again, top to bottom, left to right, I have Candlelight Affair, Bare Venus, Platinum Divinity, Eternal Love, Forever Adored, and Endearment. This was the very first palette that I saw that I knew I just had to have. I kind of went back and forth on the matte one, but the Iconic Illumination, I could not resist that palette specifically. And then I ended up just throwing the Velvet Liaison with that. But that is just some details of these palettes. I know my review isn't super early to the party. We all know Pat McGrath shipping. I'm not going to go over it, but especially to Europe, it takes a little bit longer. So I just got these the other day, and I figured since it was the Love collection, just put it up on Valentine's Day. So that's what I'll be doing. I am gonna do looks with these palettes. Usually I do 2 or 3 looks per palette, but I think today I'm just gonna test the formula and do 1 look on each eye, only because I am testing a foundation. Everything that I am wearing is listed down in the description box below, but I am just trying out the Good Apple Balm. I'm doing kind of a foundation battle between this one and the serum. Yesterday I tried out the serum foundation, so I just don't want to be taking off my eyeshadow and messing up my wear test. So that's, I think, what we're going to do. So let's just get started. I'm going to first start with the Velvet Liaison palette, and I've just kind of been staring at this for a minute. Usually I go into my eye looks with a plan, but I don't really have a plan. I think I'm just gonna try something that I loosely have in my head and see how it works out. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to take the more neutral shade here, this one, and just kind of put this all over the lid as a base. So let's start with that. This is my favorite tone. It kind of reminds me of MAC Wedge, and if you've seen any of my declutters, I can link that playlist, but I love MAC Wedge. It was probably my most used eyeshadow when I was younger. I'm 33, I think, 32 or 33 somewhere. So in my early 20s, MAC Wedge was my jam. I went through like multiple eyeshadows of that. And this shade kind of reminds me of that shade. So now that I have this all over the lid, I do want to stick to an all matte look and just use this palette. Normally, I've never done an all matte look, so I'm really just trying to step out of my comfort zone. I can always take it off at the end of the day. So now I think I kind of want to carve out my lid with this really beige tone and just kind of lay down some structure, especially in the inner part of the lid. I think that this is supposed to open up your eye more, which I could really use. I have slightly hooded eyes. It is just the first place that I like retain water, I swear. If I'm inflamed, it always shows in my eyes. So we're just gonna try it. I really just kind of want to see how the formula works. It is blending really nice. I mean, Pat McGrath has really nice shadows. I will say in her Mothership palettes, sometimes the mattes can be just very pigmented and hard to blend out, but I'm not finding that the case to be with these. I do think that maybe this is a different formula, although I couldn't say for sure. And now I think I'm going to go in to the top right corner and deepen up the outer corner just a little bit. Even this brush is like bigger than I want it to be. So I'm gonna go in with like a smaller brush, kind of like a pencil brush, because I really want to try and just like sculpt. Yeah, that's better. I think like companies sell really big eye brushes, not to go on a tangent here, and it's been like a journey for me to find brushes for my eye shape and for my eye size. I always wondered how people get like really detailed looks, and I'm starting to realize it's because I just don't have small enough brushes. I'm gonna go more back in with that beige shade and the same color I first laid down that initial color to just kind of blend out the edges. It still has some of that first shade on there, so it's kind of just a mix of the two. Now I'm gonna go in with an even smaller brush. There's a hair on it. And go in with that more red tone. And I think I want to just carve out, I saw this on one of her Instagram videos. She kind of just like carved this inner crease part, and I don't know how that would look. And I'm gonna kind of just connect it to that other brown that I had before, just to use a different shade and give more dimension. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing at all. It kind of gives dimension. All right, I can see it. I'm gonna go back in with that beige and just kind of redefine what was lost. And just keep blending. So go back in just where that inner part was that I laid down that shade, just because I don't want too harsh of a line. That was maybe too much. Too much. What do we think so far? Something new, something different? I don't know. I don't know how much I like it. I do need to clean up this outer corner. I'll do that at the end when I apply mascara. Let's, I'm gonna take this darkest brown and just lightly go over the bottom lash line. I don't want this to be too heavy smoky. And then take that first shade and blend it out. Okay, I like it more now that I put on lower eyeshadow. I do still think I kind of want to just line the upper lid with this deep dark brown. I don't really do wings, but I'm gonna at least line this top part here. Here is the first look without mascara. You know, I'm sure it's not innovative or anything, but it's something I normally don't do on the everyday, so I'm kind of liking it. I do think it kind of gives like a different shape to my eye. You'll have to let me know what you think in the comments, or if you have any tips for me, please let me know, because I do struggle with eyeshadow. I'm really pushing myself beyond my comfort zone doing these videos. So here's what it is looking like. And now let's go to Iconic Infatuation and do the other eye. Now this palette is much more in my wheelhouse, so I'm going to be putting this in the crease here. I might kind of just like ombre it out, and same thing with the shimmers, like inner corner, middle lid, and outer corner, or even, I'm just trying to decide, maybe like halo. Should I do like a halo with this and put this all over the lid? Why don't we do that? And then this one will have to just be for another day. So I'm gonna start with this shade and we'll probably deepen it up with this one, use this as liner. Okay, that sounds like a plan. So I'm gonna go back in with my Refer 15, just apply this to the crease. This shade is much more pigmented right off the bat than the Velvet Liaison. This matte is performing like the mattes in her mothership, where I just get a ton of pigment and then it's a little bit tougher to blend out. Not super tough, but like I feel like it's all concentrated right there and it's not really diffusing while keeping the color. That's okay, just wasn't expecting it right off the bat since the Velvet Liaison one was different. Now going in with my Refer 13 in that more medium toned matte, going to just deepen up the outer corner here. And now that I have that laid down, I'm gonna go in with that medium toned kind of rose gold shimmer here. I'm gonna put that all over the lid with my finger. at least like 80% of it, just leaving that outer corner with the little bit of depthness. That went on perfectly. I really like this. So now I'm gonna go in with the same finger. It has a little bit left on there. I'm gonna go into that champagne and just very lightly kind of spotlight with that shade. I like that a lot. Now let's do bottom lash line. Going in with the medium. Again, just outer corner here. Just a little bit. Wiping off my brush and going in with the transition shade. All on the lower lash line. Perfect. So I'm going to line with this deepest dark matte here. And then the only shade I didn't use in this palette was this one. So let's just do that really quickly here. Not too much, just to kind of thicken up the lash line. If you hear chickens or dogs in the background, if this is your first time to video, I live on a farm. And the chickens, even though it is mid-afternoon, they are doing their thing. So unfortunately, I cannot control the chickens as much as the dogs. And let's be honest, I can't control the dogs either. Oh, God, just stabbed myself. Okay. So this is what look number 2 is. I do think that this palette performed a little bit differently than the Velvet one. I'll kind of go over my final thoughts in a second, but first I'm going to apply mascara and just show you the final looks. And then here I am with mascara applied. So I have the All Matte Velvet Liaison on this side and Iconic Infatuation on this side. You know, I actually surprisingly think that I like the matte side more. I don't know. I am going to get my thoughts together and we're gonna just go over my final thoughts on these palettes. Let's just go over my final thoughts on these palettes here. I'm gonna keep it pretty brief. I think I've made my thoughts a little bit known in the intro here just because of how hesitant I was even picking these up. But you know, you don't need these palettes. They're nice palettes. I will say, trying them out, for some reason, I'm just getting the impression that the Velvet Liaison is a different formula than the Iconic Infatuation. The Iconic Infatuation palette performs just like her other palettes. The Velvet Liaison is the one that I'm just feeling like performs different. And I can't confirm or deny this. Like, I have no idea. I haven't looked at the ingredients at all. But the mattes just blend out so much more smoothly than mattes in her Mothership palettes. So I don't know if I'm the only one that's just thinking that. They're both made in the USA, and I believe that the Mothership palettes are made in Italy. So I don't know what the difference is with that, but I'm really surprisingly liking the Velvet Liaison palette. I like all the mattes in here, and I'm especially excited because I talked about and I reviewed the Pat McGrath holiday collection. I can link that video. And in it, I only purchased the quints from that collection, and most of them were shimmer shades in those palettes. There was only one matte, and that was my only complaint about those palettes, is it wasn't a versatile palette. It was really a shimmer heavy palette, and a lot of people love that. If you're buying a holiday collection, you want something a little bit more special. But now that I have this palette, this is going to be perfect to pair with those quints. So I'm really excited that I picked this one up. However, I still would not pay full price for these. Pat McGrath really hurts herself because everyone knows at this point that she does just crazy sales all year long. The only people that are purchasing this at full price, I have to think, are the very few people that don't know she's doing sales or people that are just doing it for review purchases. I have a hard time believing that there are a lot of people out there who just like these palettes but aren't going to wait for a sale. So that's just where I stand. I don't think that these are special enough to warrant you going to grab right away. I mean, what's the next holiday coming up? 4th of July? I would probably guess that there's going to be a sale by then, if not earlier. I'm blanking on US holidays right now, but you know, there's going to be a sale at the end of the day. These are really nice. I kind of, I was a little bit disappointed on this one. While I liked the color story, it performed nice. It didn't exceed my expectations. It kind of just like barely met my expectations, whereas the Velvet Liaison really exceeded my expectations. And I'm kind of excited to just play around with mattes more. I wonder if mattes are going to be kind of making a comeback this year, but I'm really pleased with the look that I came up with. So that's really where all my thoughts are about these. They have a solid formula, they perform great, but other than that, wait for them to go on a discount. $65 just isn't worth it to me. Even if I had, $10 million in the bank, I probably wouldn't purchase these palettes at full price unless it was for review purposes. So that's just my thoughts on these palettes here. Let me know down in the comments below. Did you already pick these up? Did you have to have them right away? Do you agree with the price point, or are you just gonna wait for a sale, or are you just gonna skip this collection altogether and we're over Pat McGrath? I know there are a lot of people who are just kind of over her. She comes out the same color story over and over again, and they've kind of written her off. So let me know where you stand in the comments, but that is where I'm gonna leave you all today. I hope you're having a great one, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.